Do you know what segment of people have the most, well, for lack of a better term, the most educated people?
Yeah, statistics have just recently proven to me that it's shown Black women.
Right.
Yeah.
The most educated as far as like, PhDs, doctorate degrees and things of that nature. But they are also the smallest percentage of leaders in businesses, roles,
Managerial positions.
Managerial positions. They're the least represented segment of people. Highest educated, least represented.
Or respected.
Yo, it's your boy Chauncey.
And it's your favorite boyfriend, Uncle Wayne.
This is the WTF He Say podcast.
That's what's up.
Yo, what's up? Welcome back.
What's good, brother?
Wayne, you good?
I'm good, man. I'm just thankful to be here with a reasonable portion of health and strength and having woken up in my right mind and thankful for the little bit I have, which ain't much, but it's enough.
I feel you. Well, as you can tell today, we are dressed in all black to, kind of in our support of Black History Month. And we wanted to talk a little bit of facts and go down and share some information, some personal feelings, definitely about, Black History Month.
No doubt, definitely. Some facts, not just American history. Talk to you about American history.
Yeah. But specifically a certain portion of American history. Is that fair?
Fair enough, and I'm break mine down.
All right, what you got? Let's go ahead and start this thing off. Let me hear what you got.
Okay. I'm kind of going to bring it. I'm not going to even start too much in the past, but I will touch the past a little bit. It's been a lot of conversation recently. The Super Bowl just happened.
Okay.
There's a lot of conversation about the songs that were sung at the Super Bowl and the artists, who the artists were. So I'm going to break down just a little bit of that. So there were some people who said that the Black National Anthem was done and it shouldn't have been done at the Super Bowl. So I wanted to break down some context and what they call the Black National Anthem is, okay? First of all, it's a poem. Started out as a poem. Poem was ultimately put to music. And then since we have the song called Lift Every Voice and Sing, then it became adopted, whether it be officially or unofficially, as what we know as the Black National Anthem. So it was a poem written by James Weldon Johnson. His brother put it to music, and it was actually then a hymn. If you ever been to a black church, you got that hymnal book that's there. They had the numbers in the corner. What songs you're going to sing out of the book. It's in that book, especially in any black churches. The Broadman hymnal in the purple covering. So I grew up with that, So that first stanza is commonly sung, and I have a personal relationship with that song because when I grew up at PS 123 in Queens, every time we had an assembly, we sung both songs. We sung Lift Every Voice and Sing, first stanza, and we sung the national anthem. And it wasn't an issue of being separatist, as some people kind of alluded to or even may have said I've seen on social media posts. It's just the demographic of where I was at in Southside Jamaica, Queens, at a basically all black neighborhood back in the 80s. And it was still a song that was inspirational, inclusionary, and also uplifting, as well as singing the national anthem, because we're Americans. So I think that whenever someone attempts to make that a separatist type of thing, I don't want to say I take it personal, but I understand that it's not. It's totally not. And it's all about a struggle, a belief, essentially what, in some aspects, what this country initially said it was about, even though we all didn't get here the same way and the same route. The individuals who come from the heritage of that particular song, we weren't here on our will or as indentured servants, as some of the other nationalities came through Ellis Island. We came through Johns Island. You know, we came through the Sea Islands of Georgia and Charleston in South Carolina. So it wasn't Ellis Island. We came through a different island ultimately throughout this country and impacted this country. So obviously there'll be some individuals we're going to talk about, but I wanted to lay that down as some of the groundwork for those who may feel like that was a separatist or something outside of what America really is, because that song is American. Just like God Bless America, just like the Star Spangled Banner, just like My Country, God to Thee, and all these songs.
Even something as simple as Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Just as simple as Take Me Out to the Ball Game is just as American as apple pie.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Do you think maybe that the interpretation of that being separatist is because a certain portion or segment of people might feel excluded because of that? So
individuals may, I think people feel excluded about the regular national anthem. You know, when you get into some of the stanzas of what it's talking about, you know, there's been a lot of
protests.
I don't want to say the word protest, but I guess things brought to light about the entire song. You know, when it talks about the second stanza, we don't sing the second stanza of the national. You sing the first, you know, and you stop there. So there's some songs that people question, but I think that in reality, it's an American song. You're an American. This is a part of America. So to give it or say that, oh, the Black National Anthem shouldn't have been sung. Hey man, it's a national anthem. It's a honor to be able to be a part of that or to have it in its American history. So that's why I stand on it. You know, I'm not the one that's going to protest the American flag. You know, there are many people who died for this country of all nationalities, all creeds.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, let's not, you know, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but I also understand how there's been America's not always lived up to her creed, you know, and when you put her and request her to be honest with herself and look in the mirror, she wants to put a whole lot of makeup on and eyelashes and lipstick and maybe, I don't know, anything else that she can to hide her true face.
So what you saying is America's getting a BBL?
That's a possibility too. She may have a BBL on her too.
That's a crazy interpretation and analogy to connect the dots there. I think that the biggest thing is I personally believe that inclusion is more important than exclusion. And being included in things does a whole lot more better. That sounds crazy. It does a whole lot more for people than it does excluding them. That statement I just made right there lets me know I've been living in South Carolina a little too long, man.
What was it you said again?
A whole lot more better.
A whole lot more better.
Well, that boy country. When you say ye country like you daddy.
It's almost like worse.
Over there.
Yeah, we'll get onto that a little later as we talk.
As we proceed.
Yeah.
As I jumped into, you know, definitely some of the research for and knowledge-based learning into Black history over the span of my life, there's a lot of things that you learn that you can become passionate about, and there are a lot of things that you learn that could also anger you, right? I listened specifically today, and it's weird because I know that, and we talked about this before, our phones be ear hustling to what's going on. So, you know, obviously me and you discuss things that we'd like to get into. And I swear my phone was ear hustling because I caught a clip of Malcolm X today talking about, he was giving an interview, and I can't remember what show he was on, and the host was pressing him about his last name. And he was like, I don't have no last name. My last name is X. And the host continued to push him about it. And he was like, look, my people's last name has been stripped from them. We were giving the last name of our slave owners. That my dad's last name, my grandfather's last name, my great-grandfather's last name, my great-great-grandfather's last name belong to our slave owners. We don't know what our last name is. That's why I take the name I got as in X, because I don't know what my last name truly is. The last name I have is what was given to me from, you know, our slave owners. And it's crazy because when you think about it, what would my last name be? I'll never know.
No, you can't. It's hard to find out what tribe you would have been. You could find the way that they've done Ancestry and 23andMe. You can get a very good idea of where your genealogy comes in with DNA. And I'm from Benin and Togo and that area, Nigeria. That's where most of my DNA comes from. But you can't say that I was in this village at this particular time.
Your family comes from this village.
That my family's from here,
right. And that's unfortunate when you start thinking about history, being able to track your history.
Right.
And we get further down the lines where some of our ancestors didn't really even know how old they were.
Right.
They weren't allowed to know their birth dates.
Right.
So we start getting
you couldn't know you couldn't know because you couldn't learn.
Correct.
To count, to know how old you are.
Right. So we start going down those lines and just learning and researching those things. And that's common knowledge.
Yeah,
those things is common knowledge. Which
it's American history.
Right. But it should be learned. And I'm not sure. I'll talk to my boys about what they learn in school and in history. And it's not much. Not much. They're more concerned with convincing us that Christopher Columbus found America.
Right. And see these, I'll call it propaganda because ultimately that's what that is. It's given a certain storyline and other things flow with a certain storyline in order for it to work. Like the great melting pot theory that we were taught. And then you see the diminishing amount of how Black history is taught in schools till now. I think it may be a paragraph, maybe a chapter, maybe. And then they, give you historical figures that they would like to feel you need to know, contrast them and say one or the other, and then call it a day.
The main ones,
Right.
they definitely point out the main ones, MLKs, the Malcolm X, and
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks and
Du Bois, Booker T. Washington,
Frederick Douglass. But there's so many more outside of those.
What's the first dude that got killed? There was a dude, the black dude. Crispus Attucks. If I'm mistaken. The first got killed, I think, in Revolutionary War or something like that.
I'm not familiar with it, to be honest with you.
I had to fact check that, but I think.
Yeah, definitely. The
off the top of my head, I think.
But see, the things that I think are more important, or not want to say more important, but just as important, is an individual like Henry Box Brown. Got his nickname Box because he shipped himself in a 2x3 by 3 foot box to freedom.
From where?
From Virginia.
VA.
From Virginia in 1815, I believe. I may be mistaken on the exact date, but he paid $86, which is equivalent to about $3,100 today.
That's a pretty good penny,
right? To ship himself in that box, and that voyage, for lack of a better term, took 27 hours in that box that he was in, and it was by wagon, by railroad, by steamboat, multiple times on each one. And at sometimes, even though the box was labeled this side up, the box was turned upside down, and it was marked with dry goods on it.
Okay.
And he got all the way to,
how many days?
27 hours.
27 hours.
27 hours.
Okay. All right.
And he shipped himself to freedom in Philadelphia. And the reason why he shipped himself to freedom in Philadelphia is because his slave owner sold his wife and kids off, even after promising him that he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it was a lot of hoodwinking.
So they allowed him to get married.
A whole lot of hoodwinking going on.
Yeah, they allowed him to get married because, you had to get permission to get married. So they allowed him to get married and start a family, and then promised him that they wouldn't separate his family, and then sold off his wife and kids. And that was it for him. So he, shipped himself to freedom, for lack of a better term. But I don't think many people know about Henry Box Brown.
No.
He became a magician after that.
Do you know if he ever reconnected with his family?
He did not. He took a new wife.
Similar to many others.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you're left with very little options in those times.
And the reason I was going to ask you about, or just give the parody, he shipped himself 27 hours, essentially a state over, maybe two, Virginia to Pennsylvania, not far. Imagine that ride 3 months from your native land, just a few generations before him, to the Americas. With the tightness of that, and the the conditions.
Deplorable.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you what made that really, really realistic to me. And if anybody out here is watching this and you haven't been, where do we send them, Wayne? Where's the number one place you got to go in Memphis?
Memphis, you got to go to the Lorraine Motel.
Exactly, the Lorraine Motel. And inside of there, they've completely redone the hotel into a museum, and it's all the way as you walk through the museum. It's all the way up until the point where Martin Luther King was killed, and they have his room preserved in the exact same way that it was the day that he died, down to the newspaper that was left on his bed is still the same newspaper that was there at the time.
Yeah, let's not give them everything, because we want them to go. We're not getting no money out of it, but we want them to go for. And there's so many other exhibits.
Right. But the thing I wanted to touch on, based on what you said, was the fact that the voyage from homeland to over here, inside of that
one of the
museum,
yeah, they
have a built out kind of prop of how the boat was, how the Africans were on the boat.
Right, really tough. I also encourage you to go to the museum in Washington. That was great. That was another great visit. Money spent. The museum, and you can't do it in one day. It's like 3 levels to it. I think we went twice in 2 days each time to see it. And we also have a great one down in Charleston. The museum down in Charleston is fairly new. I think it was in the last decade. I'm quite sure. It might even be 8 years or less, but that's very nice too. Right down there in Charleston, real close to the water. That's a very good national museum. So I've been to several. Almost every time I go to that town, I try to look for something. When I went to Birmingham, went to where the 4 girls were killed. Obviously, Big Bethel, right here in Charleston. We had another unfortunate event, murder of innocent people for hatred, just for being Americans. I mean, that's what it ultimately comes down to. We're Americans here. Anything else you want to touch on, man? Any other figures?
So the one that really, really stands out is going to be George Stinney Jr. And I'm not sure. Reason why it should stand out is because here, right in our home state where we at, little town of Ocala, I believe, South Carolina.
Ocala with an A?
Yeah.
That's down in there, Manning.
Yeah.
Alachua, or what you call it?
Ocala, I believe.
Okay.
I could be mispronouncing.
Could be.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I don't know. Just saying. Get them boys down from Manning, they get a little upset with you.
I apologize,
Okay, you gotta get it right. You ain't from around here.
Nah, man.
You gotta let them know.
I'm not from around here. I speak a little bit different. But in all seriousness, George Stinney Jr. was a 14-year-old teenager, a kid who was accused of murdering 2 white girls, young ladies, who were 8 years old and 11. And this apparently occurred in March, I think March 23rd of 1944, when this incident occurred. And he was arrested, and trial for him was in April. So the next month they had trial, and the trial lasted 2 hours long. The jury deliberated for 10 minutes and found him guilty. And his punishment was going to be death, and death by the electric chair at 14 years old, right here in South Carolina.
And I heard he was not a very large man either.
Oh, no. George Stinney Jr. was 90 pounds at the time he was killed. And I say killed. So he was electrocuted in June of 1944. So think about this timeline, Uncle Wayne. March, the crime happened. April, the trial happened. June, they kill him. Think about the timeline of that, right?
Right.
We're talking about 3 months from March to June. And he was so small that they had to use a Bible as a booster seat in order to strap him to the electric. Ultimately, in 2014, he was exonerated.
Wow.
Right?
Right. Well, how did they exonerate him?
Found some new evidence, and then somebody ultimately confessed on their deathbed to being the person responsible for that crime.
Did he have some kind of relationship to the family that we know of?
Not that I know of. But that is ultimately the right here in South Carolina, the youngest person ever put to death by means of electric chair. In
I believe Clarendon County. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I never get that. I have a friend from that way actually,
okay,
and I don't want to say the name of the town wrong, community wrong.
oh, you ain't trying to be like me, huh? Mispronounce it.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, but think about that. And then it was so bad that his whole family had to move. They were run out of town.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it might have came and got the rest of the family.
Yeah, his whole family was ran out of town, and they weren't even allowed to attend the trial.
Right, you came in town. Yeah, came in town.
Right.
They might have got you the the night riders.
Yeah, but so that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate history. I have a 12-year-old son who's about to turn 13 this year, and I couldn't imagine. And he might be 90 pounds right now.
I don't even think that.
Right.
Right.
You know, so I couldn't imagine what that's like as a parent in 1944. And anybody who has kids can relate to this. There's no worse feeling than helplessness with your kids.
No.
There's no worse feeling than that.
And
if they're sick or, they injure themselves or something occurs and you're unable to help them, there's no worse feeling than
that. Right, but that's how you feel now.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a time you was helpless with yourself.
Oh yeah.
Your whole entire family, your wife, children, nothing. You didn't own nothing. You was nothing.
Correct.
So that, when you think of all of that progress or all of the odds stacked against you to even live, let alone to get to this point now where we're successful. Some people will say, hey man, slavery and all that's over with. What would be, I guess a stance, an opinion on that?
If someone said,
hey, all that's in the past, it's real history. It's history.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to suffer from that. You college educated or, you do well, things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is true, right? You college educated, it is history. It is in the past, but it is still things from the past that whether you immediately suffered from it, that still is a part of your history, right? I listened to stories from my grandfather before he passed and would tell us about, walking to the store or whatnot and having rocks thrown at them, as they're walking, cars riding by and people throwing rocks at them, right? I didn't experience that, but that's my grandfather. So how do you think I feel about that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even though people would make that statement, they don't understand. And only people who make that statement were never on the other side of the fence.
And one thing I will say is, because there's also a whole lot of talk about, and I'm bringing, I guess, talking a lot more currently what's going on with DEI, diversity and equity and inclusion, right? So I'm bringing this into this respect when it comes to American history, Black history. My friends are diverse. I've worked with, been friends with, ate at, white people's table, Black folk table. Sound cliche. I have friends that are gay, friends that are bisexual, friends that are handicapped, whether you can physically see it or not. All that is diversity. I would always want to keep an inclusionary relationship with all of my friends. I don't want them to feel ostracized or that they can't come around me because of who they love, what they do, or what they choose to do. Because I sure enough am not perfect. You know what I'm saying?
It was just a little bit short.
I fall a little short of being perfect. So who am I not to give them some sort of equity, some sort of, in our friendship, in what we call America, this melting pot. So it just gives when America really says what it supposedly is. And then when you put it really to the test, sometimes we don't meet that standard.
Yeah, and with that being said, since you brought that up, is that, do you know what segment of people have the most, well, for lack of a better term, the most educated people?
Yeah, statistics have just recently proven to me that it's shown Black women.
Right.
Yeah.
The most educated as far as PhDs, doctorate degrees, and things of that nature. But they are also the smallest percentage of leaders in businesses, roles,
managerial positions.
managerial positions. They're the least represented segment of people. Highest educated, least represented.
Or respected.
And correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And now I'm going to hit a caveat off of that, because lately with this push for some of the things, I don't want to say I will, because I'm on certain social media sites, even business related websites. And it's been sickening to see how political business related websites have gotten. We would be networking for business. When we get back on the topic of managerial leadership, I'm interested to see how this affects a business that I've been in and recently retired from, because there's been a push for women to be promoted in leadership roles within law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So when you start with the DEI rhetoric and the anti-this and all of that, I wonder now, will we even change, even if it's not outwardly in the law enforcement business, but indirectly, and then these things that they have programs to push women to the forefront, not by lowering standards, by saying, hey, these particular women have been achieving and they qualify for the position and making it happen. Let's recognize that, So I wonder if the same individuals, because, there ends up being a national push or like go behind the leadership of America to follow behind them. Are they going to start backing down, backpedaling off of some of those programs and initiatives that they had to identify and place these women in leadership positions where they belong?
Well, the hardest part I have about this whole situation is, why does it matter? You know what I'm saying? Why does it matter if they're black, white, man, or woman? Why is that always a thing? If she is more qualified than me, there it is.
That's what it is.
Who cares, right? If he is more qualified than her, there it is. Mostly, that's the problem that I have with it, is because your race, gender should have nothing to do with the ability to do the job at a managerial position, right? And if you're in the position, you should be respected as such.
Right. And see, I never had a problem with the female leadership because my mama was definitely one that would make sure she was in charge of stuff.
Rule with an iron fist.
Right. So, if I had a boss that was a lady, it never was an issue.
And it shouldn't be.
Never.
Right. And if it is an issue for you to have, if it is an issue having a female in leadership position, then that's just a personal thing that you're dealing with.
Right. And then
nothing to do with anyone
Then I
else.
question your manhood.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? If you have an issue with that, I question your manhood.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Anything else you was thinking about there that you came up with? Any persons?
No persons in particular.
Okay.
Other than the few that I mentioned and discussed. One thing that is crazy to me, because during my exploration of additional information going down what you're calling American history, and I'm just calling it Black history, but it's just like you say.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing, brother.
Same mama, different daddy.
That's right.
Right?
That's
same
right.
mama, different daddy. But sundown towns.
Oh, yes. Lord.
Right?
Yeah.
Sundown towns.
Had a few in South Carolina, too.
Yeah, well, the crazy part is I didn't realize that it was legal.
Yeah.
It was legal until the Civil Rights Act of 1968.
Right.
My father and my mother were born in 64.
Right.
They were born and it was legal for sundown town. Now, with some people, if you don't know what a sundown town is, it's don't let the sun go down in that town.
Right. Better get up out of here, boy.
On you.
Don't let me catch you out here now.
If you was not, if you were African American or you were a black person, you could not be caught in the town after the sun went down. And if you were, you can potentially be killed legally. And this was all the way up until the Civil Rights Act of 1968. And like I said, for me, that's such an issue because my parents were born in 1964.
Yeah, I was born 10 years after that.
Right. And so in the grand scheme of things, when people, just like you mentioned earlier, when people say or think that it's history, it's in the past, it's not that far and not that long ago.
No.
Like we haven't even ended slavery for as long as it was happening.
No, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like slavery was 300, 400 years?
Right. In this country.
Correct. We're not even post 300, 400 years from that. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Of course it does.
So it was a long time ago, but that's not very long ago.
But we have progressed a lot in some respects.
Yeah, but I gotta say
but
this.
we also still backwards.
Yeah, but I gotta say this.
You gotta say it.
I moved to South Carolina in 2007. 2007. And without mentioning any names, but if you know me, then you'll know who this individual is.
All right.
Told me in high school, a friend of mine that I met when I moved here in high school, that, and they say classmate, a classmate of his had a cross burned in his yard in high school.
This was in the 2000s? He was in high school in the 2000s? Because you came out like 05, 04.
Yeah, I mean, we the same age.
Yeah, so he'd have been, yes, this would have happened in 2000.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't mean that me and him are the same age. Doesn't
Okay,
mean
okay,
that
okay.
we, would have graduated at the same time.
Okay.
But, just, for reference.
So around what times this was?
It would have been the late 90s.
Okay. Yeah.
Early 2000s in that area.
Yeah.
Here in South Carolina, he had a classmate that had a cross burned in his yard because he was dating outside his race. It was that long ago?
Nah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and see here you go. And if this was late 90s, early 2000s, America was just getting through and finished with OJ.
Mm.
Yeah, the OJ effect, man. We can go way deep down into something here, but I'm gonna hold tight on that. Yeah, but
we don't want to be too controversial, right?
No, that's not controversial. It's American history. I'm just saying that's just some of what still was going on mentally.
I'm from a different mindset about it. I'm not one who wants to be confrontational.
No, it's not about hate.
No, I'm just saying I'm not one who wants to be confrontational about race, gender, sexuality, or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Everyone is a person. I judge a person on a person, not any of those other things. How you act, how you treat me, how you carry yourself, those kind of things. Right. That's way more important than the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or any of those things. It makes no sense to me. What kind of relationship do we have?
Now, I'm going to circle back a little bit to what I started with. Excuse me. I started talking about the music, and I'm going to go back. Ultimately land right back at the Super Bowl. Okay? So also, I've seen a little social media posts, and I kind of got in my feelings because this one is also directly personal. And I think that you can relate on this a little bit when I tie it in together. So the performance by the lead artist, Mr. Kendrick Lamar.
K-Dot.
Right. He's a hip hop artist. So I'm going to take you back to, I guess, some of the origins of hip hop. We'll say, and I'll say modern hip hop is 1973. Kool Herc. That's modern hip hop. That's what people associate the start of, I would say, modern hip hop. But it does go way back before then. Even to, you can hear artists, gospel artists, the Jubilees, actually rhymed on a song, a gospel song. They made several songs, but most of the songs were gospel songs. You could probably pull them up on YouTube. They're rhyming, singing a gospel song. This was in the 1930s, right? Now you take the 1930s, this was soul, jazz, blues, right? This was that music at the time. What spurred out of that? Because they said you can't understand hip hop, right? That's what a lot of people say now.
Rock and roll. When did rock and roll?
Right. So now, blues, jazz, and all that soul became swing music, ultimately something they call rock, then rock and roll, and then Chuck Berry.
Elvis Presley.
And then the king, Elvis Presley. Now, when Elvis Presley was moving and gyrating, it might have been one or two other guys before him, that was a blasphemy for America. You know, they was like, oh man, this guy, you crazy. That's a blasphemy. You shaking your hips, you singing. But the kids loved it to death, right? The kids loved it. They like ate this thing up. This was what the new movement was. This is what it was. This is what it is. This is happening. It's groovy. It's cool. So around the 1950s and 60s, you had rock and roll. I listened to some of it, you know, because I like music. I'm quite sure it wasn't just me, but there were people who couldn't understand the lyrics to that rock and roll, especially the headbanging music as it got a little harder in the 70s, 80s.
To the heavy metal.
To the heavy metal. Yeah. We didn't understand what they was talking about. But there was a certain segment that thought it was great. Those individuals, but many people didn't understand that music. And this is why I'm tying in. There were so many people who said I couldn't understand what he was saying for the Super Bowl, right? They couldn't understand it. But the kids love it. There's a movement for it. The young man was doing what's called hip hop. Being hip is usually associated with, and this is not mine, this is KRS-One's, the greatest rapper of all time. Being hip is associated with knowledge. Hopping is a movement. It's intelligence, movement. Hip hop. The young man was tying in intelligence, symbolism, American history, when you listen to his rhymes, and then tying it in to modern day today and the direction that we should go and could go if America decides to look in itself in the mirror and believe in itself. And then I'll finish this last point. When it comes to this, is that if you have any interest, learn the lyrics just like you learned that rock and roll lyrics you did back then when nobody understood. Think about when people were saying, man, we can't understand why you're doing this. The king is shaking, he's doing all this and is blasphemous. Hip hop has some of the same elements in it too. I don't agree with everything hip hop does, but when it's in the right direction and when it does make political and social statements, it's telling a story that we need to hear. So that's what I wanted to say about it.
Do you think that people were saying they couldn't understand it because the volume or the clarity, or were they saying that they couldn't understand it because they couldn't understand what he was saying in the symbolisms in that way? You know what I'm saying? You understand the two different things that I'm saying?
All of it. And not that they didn't want to understand it.
There were some parts, and I watched it, and I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. You know, he's on my top
definitely
10 list, right?
I can respect that.
There were some portions of the performance that I couldn't understand him for volume and clarity, right? But because I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan, it didn't matter because I knew the words of the song and I was singing along anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was a lot of symbolism, and you'd have to be up with hip hop and up with politics and up with what's going on right now to understand a lot of the stuff that's going on and a lot of things that he said.
Right.
Because if you're not knowledgeable about current history, current facts, then it wouldn't make sense for you. You wouldn't understand it because you're unable to connect the dots, right? And a lot of people don't even understand like the symbolism of the car that he used, that, you know, that G&N was called.
Black National.
Yeah.
Buick. One of my favorite cars.
Yeah. People don't understand the symbolism of that.
Can you give them a little something if you could?
Yeah. The symbolism of that Grand National is that it was the car of the time at the times. It came out
in the 80s.
This one is in the
84.
80s.
I remember that
like that.
It was like 84 through 87.
Correct. But that was the car of the for the culture. You had a Grand National.
Yeah. From 86 to 87, 88.
Right. It was a status piece.
Of course. I remember that car.
So a lot of people just don't realize that old school vehicle was a status piece. And there was a time in his life where he couldn't afford it and his family couldn't afford it.
You made it if you had one.
Right.
I mean, that's just what it's like the hood Cadillac. If you had that, correct, you made it.
Correct.
You know, like the Monte Carlo, you made it.
Yeah. That's a symbolization to that.
And you know, some people didn't understand the corner scene, you know, with running kids off the corner, you know. So there was just so many other different things that went on. And what I'm trying to say is sometimes people don't want to hear it, just like they didn't want to hear rock and roll, but the kids did. This generation now does. So if you want to be on, then you got to get with the program.
But I also just think that's the cycle of life. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
I just think it's the natural cycle of life, because I find myself not too interested in a lot of new music. Right?
True.
Unless it's an artist that I'm a fan of who's making new music, but not like new artists. Like, you'll never catch me listening to 21 Savage or, like the newer artists. And that's not a shot at them, like they don't make good music. I just prefer the music that I like. And when I'm in my car listening to music, I listen to the same stuff. And my dad is no different. And I noticed that the next generation always feels like their generation was the best.
Right. And
you know what I'm saying? Because me and you debate about this all the time.
Right.
Like, you'll tell me hands down that the greatest the greatest segment of life for you was the 90s. You know what I'm saying? And just that segment. So I just believe that every generation is always going to be feeling like their generation was the best, or has the most movement or culture or whatever it is.
And I just wanted to emphasize that when you're moving the culture forward, it's different. That's what is so important, I think, with tying that Super Bowl performance into the history, into the cultural push that it's bringing. And when you think about also, we just recently had a young man who couldn't get a job in the NFL because he took a knee, So there's so much in the culture when it comes to history and the expansion. And there's several people that got behind him. Nike supported him. He still was supported by some corporations. But it just, when I thought and see how people respond, some people respond on platforms like LinkedIn, where it's, just absolutely, it's the worst NFL halftime show I've ever seen. That to me, you're tuned out to culture because your son probably is. Your daughter probably knows exactly word for word what it is. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. And that's how I wanted to tie that into the culture. So to give any indication that you're less than or can't make it, or you're some sort of DEI hire, or that, it's ridiculous.
I mean, just ultimately think about this, man. We created things in a time where we weren't able to be educated.
Right.
So imagine how you had to be resourceful, and
Ingenuity.
then obviously the ingenuity that it took to learn how to do it on your own. I mean, it to me, it's crazy what could have been had the playing field been leveled.
Right.
Have been leveled. And we all were just, here to mix and mingle together freely.
Or, as I say often, if slaves would have freed themselves,
then
you establish where you're at in your own hierarchy of society versus being put in a certain level of opposition and kept there.
That's a bold statement, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's just as American as anything else. I mean, the Boston Tea Party, there's no taxation without representation. This is American history. That's American. That's what got us, to be the what we call America today.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge the fact that, number one, I've got close friends that I would consider almost as close as family from all walks of life.
Right. I would lay my life down with.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've been to essentially almost a war with them, right?
Right.
And we've got different political views, different views on several things, but ultimately, we all want the same thing in life. And I believe that it's more important to learn how to live together than it is to live divided. And unfortunately, I just feel, lately we've been a little more divided than we should be.
Yeah, the country, it's It's been pushing, I think, in the wrong direction. Total polar opposites, and you got to meet in the middle.
Yeah. For lack of a better term, I'll just say reasonable thinking people. We're lacking the reasonable thinking. Everything is either all the way over here or all the way over there, and there is some middle ground for everyone. And I wish that, as a parent, you think about what kind of world your kids are going to be living in and growing up in, based on what's going on now. Because the truth is, all decisions that are made don't always have an immediate effect. Sometimes those effects come 10, 12, 15 years later.
Sure.
They're not immediate, and there's no going back to rectify them.
All right. Well, hey, I think that we've covered a lot tonight.
Yeah, we definitely ran through a whole lot of history.
Not necessarily a Black history program, but we talked about a lot of American history, culturally from the past, and how it resonates today, I think.
Correct. Yeah. But we just kind of ran through a lot, and some might be...
Take it away. Don't you be offended. Don't you even attempt to be offended.
That's the thing.
Even attempt. We're just telling the truth of what it is. There's nothing to be offended about.
Correct. And that was, thank you for clarifying that, because that's the one thing that when we talked about doing this, is I don't want it to be offensive to anyone, any particular segment.
Definitely
of people,
inclusionary.
because that's definitely not what it is. But unfortunately, some of the facts can be offensive to certain individuals if you so choose to take it that way. If you so choose to interpret the information that way. We really just discussed factual things that really happened.
Now, I might have a little opinion on some of my music.
Your opinion on music is not what I'm referring to. I'm really referring to the factual things, the Sundown towns, George Stinney Jr., Henry Box Brown. What was it that you mentioned initially when we started? The Black National Anthem. All of these, the poem.
Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Correct. All of these are just factual things that we discussed that have happened. It'd be no different than saying factually at this present day and time, Donald Trump is the president.
Right.
I mean, they're facts.
It's a fact.
So, like I say all the time, facts don't care about your feelings.
Right.
They don't care if you like them, you love them, you hate them. The facts are the facts.
Right. Did George Washington really chop down a cherry tree? They put it out there as a fact, but I don't really know that. Just saying.
Yeah, we will see. But nonetheless, if you stayed to the end, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about our views or our opinions, and then give a little bit of factual information to you. But we encourage you, no matter what, visit these historical places. Go to Memphis and see the Lorraine Hotel. Across the street, they've built another museum as well that shows where the individual was when he took the shot that killed Martin Luther King.
I think Donald Trump just signed he signed a bunch of these things. Executive order releasing documents for JFK, RFK, and Dr. King. So there may be some more information that can be put out about it, forthcoming.
Yeah, but definitely. So get up to DC if possible to visit that museum. Again, the Lorraine Hotel down there, the one that's across the street that shows, the vantage point of which the shot was taken from. And there are several places right here in South Carolina that have some history that you can visit, especially down to the Charleston area, because most people might not know this, but Charleston was one of the main hubs that slaves were brought into and debarked when they came to America, right here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, and I went on a ride in Charleston recently, and if someone wanted to get that information from me, they could catch me at Uncle Wayne the Artist on Instagram. I'll be glad to give you the name of the ride. And the young man took us all throughout old Charleston, and Charleston showed us historical landmarks, families where people owned various things, communities within Charleston, and things that you pass every day that you would not know that was there in the 1700s, 1800s, right there, and still there today. Amazing.
Now, I might be wrong on this, but I think I remember being educated on the fact that open air market downtown was one of the main places where they bought slaves and sold them.
Well, I think he kind of clears that up when you go on the ride.
Okay.
And it's interesting to find that out.
Okay.
No doubt.
Apparently he knows a little bit that he ain't gonna divulge. So
if hit me up, Uncle Wayne, the artist. I will gladly give you the information on the tour that you need to take, and I'll give you his name. I'm gonna want you to contact me, like and subscribe, so we can get down, and I'll give you some little something.
That's right. As Uncle Wayne said, like and subscribe to the channel. And we appreciate the time if you hung out with us to the end. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.